It's not every day that a single social media post sends a shockwave through the entire global energy market. But that is exactly what happened. A massive, almost unbelievable announcement dropped, hinting at a deal that could totally reshape energy ties between two of the world's biggest democracies. So let's break down what's really going on here. And boom, there it is, the post from US President Donald Trump that had the business world absolutely scrambling for answers. He announced the first new US oil refinery in half a century, a truly historic project, backed by a staggering $300 billion deal with none other than India's energy behemoth Reliance Industries. I mean, on the surface, it's a landmark announcement, but the story gets complicated, and it gets complicated fast.
Yeah, because as soon as everyone in India woke up to the news, the supposed partner in this historic deal, Reliance, was completely silent. No press release, no confirmation, not even a denial, just nothing. And that silence, well, it created this huge vacuum of confusion and speculation.
This quote from a senior exec in the Indian oil and gas industry just perfectly captures the mood. Insiders were scrambling, asking the exact same question as everyone else. Was this a done deal or just, a premature announcement? To figure that out, we've got to first understand the key figures at the center of this whole thing. Okay, so let's meet the key players at the center of this unfolding drama. So you've got President Trump, the one making the grand announcement. Then you have Reliance Industries, or RAL, the silent partner right at the heart of it all. And then there's America First Refining, a Texas-based company that's the actual developer. Now, they did release a statement confirming a major 9-figure investment and a 20-year agreement with a global supermajor, but here's the thing, they never actually named Reliance. To solve this mystery, we have to do what investigators always do. We gotta follow the money. That massive headline-grabbing number is the key to understanding what's really going on here. $300 billion. It's a number so huge, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. I mean, to put it in perspective, that's bigger than the entire GDP of countries like Finland or Chile. And it's the source of all this confusion. So the big question is, what does this number actually represent? And here it is. This is the aha moment. That $300 billion is not the price tag to build the refinery. That would be absolutely astronomical. Instead, it's the total estimated value of a massive 20-year commercial deal, something the industry calls an offtake agreement. So here's how that giant number breaks down. The deal really has two parts. Over 2 decades, Reliance commits to buying and processing about $125 billion worth of American shale oil at this new refinery. Then they turn around and commit to selling all the output, the gasoline, the diesel, the jet fuel, for a total value of about $175 billion. You add those two figures together, and there's your $300 billion. And this just brilliantly illustrates the difference between a commercial agreement and a direct investment. The actual upfront cash, the capital investment from this global supermajor, is confirmed to be a 9-figure sum, so somewhere between $100 million and $1 billion. Now, don't get me wrong, that's a massive amount of money for sure, but it's a very different story from the $300 billion headline. Okay, so now that we kind of understand the money, let's zoom out. Why would this deal be happening now? Well, the answer really lies in the bigger geopolitical picture and the long history between Reliance and the U.S. energy sector. This isn't Reliance's first rodeo in the U.S. They invested heavily in American shale way back in 2010. But then, as prices fell, they started selling off those assets, and they made a full exit by 2021. This is what makes a potential return to the U.S. so significant. Add to that the fact that Reliance's chairman, Mukesh Ambani, attended a private reception for President Trump just last year, and you can see the commercial and political lines starting to blur. Now, to understand why Reliance is basically the perfect partner for a project like this, you need to know about something called the Nelson Complexity Index. Just think of it like a refinery's IQ score. The higher the number, the smarter and more sophisticated the refinery is at turning really difficult, cheap crude oil into valuable stuff. And this chart just says it all. The average U.S. refinery has a complexity score of 12.7, which is pretty high, by the way. But Reliance's flagship Jamnagar refinery in India, its score is a staggering 21.1. That makes it one of the most advanced and flexible refineries on the entire planet. They have the expertise to make a project like this work and work really, really well. So what are the stakes here? Well, for the U.S., it's a huge deal for domestic energy security,
I mean, the first new refinery in almost 50 years is a big deal. On a global scale, it seriously deepens the strategic energy partnership between two very powerful nations. And for Reliance, oh, it's a strategic masterstroke. They get to secure a 2-decade supply of American crude while planting a flag deep inside the world's largest energy market. Okay, so we've got the players, we understand the money, and we have the motive. But what's the verdict? Let's look at how the market reacted and the big questions that are still just hanging in the air. Right, because despite all this buzz, there's still so much we just don't know. The biggest question of all, will Reliance ever break its silence and officially confirm its role? And beyond that, you've got major questions about the final cost, the construction timeline, and whether a project of this scale can even navigate the maze of U.S. environmental regulations, especially with a super ambitious 2027 target for Phase 1. And it seems we're not the only ones with questions. You'd think a $300 billion announcement would send a company's stock soaring, right? Well, the market's reaction was surprisingly meh. Investors pretty much seem to be saying, that's nice, show us the signed contract. In fact, not only was the reaction muted, it was actually negative. On the day of Trump's historic announcement, Reliance Industries stock closed down 1.27%. This is probably the clearest signal that the market sees this deal as far from certain. They're waiting for concrete details before they buy into the hype. And that really leaves us with this central question, doesn't it? Is this a truly visionary deal that will redefine the global energy map for decades to come? Or is it a politically charged, premature announcement for a partnership that still needs to be hammered out? I guess only time and an official statement from Reliance will tell.